The snow fell so thick that Ethan Walker almost didn't see the child standing in the middle of Highway 87. A little girl, maybe 5 years old. No hat, no shoes. Her bare feet left red prints in the white snow, blood freezing as fast as it appeared. She clutched a torn teddy bear to her chest, shaking so violently Ethan thought she might collapse right there in the storm. Ethan was a single father who had survived war, but in that moment, his heart nearly stopped. He didn't know her name. He didn't know who she was. And he had no idea that in just a few hours, her billionaire mother would arrive with a truth that would terrify the entire town. The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the blizzard. Ethan gripped the steering wheel of his old pickup, eyes straining through the whiteout. The Montana winter had arrived early and cruel this year, turning Highway 87 into a tunnel of swirling white. He was heading home after picking up parts from Billings, a 3-hour round trip he made every other week for Miller's Auto Repair, the only shop in Pine Ridge that kept him employed and his son fed. His boy, Noah, would be at Mrs. Henderson's house by now, probably eating cookies and asking 1,000 questions about when Dad would get home. The thought warmed him against the cold seeping through the truck's worn seals. Noah was 6, gap-toothed and curious, the kind of kid who could turn a trip to the grocery store into an adventure. Ethan lived for that boy, every early morning, every greasy engine, every night spent reading the same bedtime stories until the words lost all meaning. It was all for Noah. Then he saw her. At first, Ethan thought it was a trick of the snow. A shadow, maybe, or the storm playing games with his vision. But as his headlights cut through the white, the shape solidified into something his brain refused to accept. A small human being standing perfectly still in the center of the highway. His foot slammed the brake. The truck fishtailed, tires searching desperately for traction on the ice beneath the snow. He jerked the wheel hard, heart hammering against his ribs, and the vehicle came to rest just 15 feet from the child. Ethan sat frozen for 3 heartbeats, hands trembling on the wheel. Then training kicked in. The same instinct that had kept him alive through 2 tours in Kandahar, that had taught him to act first and process later. He threw open the door and jumped out into the storm. The wind hit him like a fist, stealing his breath. Snow invaded his eyes, his mouth, his lungs, but he pushed forward, boots crunching through 6 inches of fresh powder. The girl hadn't moved. She stood there in a thin pink nightgown, no coat, no protection from the elements whatsoever. Her blonde hair was matted with ice crystals. Her face had taken on a bluish tint that Ethan recognized immediately. Hypothermia. The teddy bear she held looked as ravaged as she did, one eye missing, stuffing spilling from a torn seam. But it was her feet that made his stomach drop. Bare, cut deep by rocks or ice, bleeding onto the snow in small red circles that the blizzard quickly buried. He dropped to one knee in front of her, keeping his voice soft, the same tone he used with Noah after a nightmare. "Hey there, sweetheart. My name is Ethan. Can you hear me?" Her eyes moved to his face. Brown eyes, huge and glassy with shock. Her lips tried to form words but only produced small clouds of vapor in the frozen air. "I'm going to pick you up now, okay? We need to get you warm." He didn't wait for permission. Hypothermia didn't negotiate. Ethan scooped the child into his arms, and she weighed almost nothing. He'd carried a rifle pack that weighed more. She was small for 5, if that was even her age, fragile as bird bones beneath that soaked nightgown. She didn't resist, didn't make a sound, just held that bear tighter and let her head fall against his shoulder. Ethan ran back to the truck, yanked open the passenger door, and climbed in with her still in his arms. He cranked the heat to maximum, grabbed the emergency blanket from behind the seat, and wrapped it around her small body. "You're safe now," he murmured, rubbing her arms through the blanket, trying to generate warmth through friction. "I've got you." Her lips moved. The words came out barely above a whisper, cracked and raw. "I can't find my mommy. That sentence hit harder than any roadside bomb ever had. Ethan checked her feet carefully. Deep cuts, probably from sharp rocks hidden under the snow. Frostbite was starting at the toes, the skin turning waxy and white. He'd seen frostbite before in the mountains of Afghanistan. This wasn't critical yet, but it would be soon if he didn't act fast. He grabbed his water bottle and a clean rag from the glove compartment, wet the cloth, and gently cleaned the worst of the blood and dirt from her wounds. The girl whimpered, but didn't pull away. "You're doing great, sweetheart. So brave. My son Noah, he's about your age. He's brave too." "I'm 5, she whispered. "Almost 6. Noah just turned 6. I bet you two would be friends." He asked her name. "Lily?" she said, so quietly he almost missed it. Ethan Walker knew something about being lost. He'd been 22 when he enlisted. Young and stupid, his father had said. Noble and brave, his mother had countered. The truth fell somewhere in between. 2 tours in Afghanistan had taught him what protection really meant. It meant watching friends die in places whose names he couldn't pronounce. It meant making impossible choices under fire. It meant coming home with scars that didn't show on X-rays. But he'd also come home to Sarah, sweet, patient Sarah, who worked at the diner and didn't mind that sometimes he woke up screaming at 3 in the morning. They'd gotten married at the courthouse with just their parents as witnesses. Noah was born 10 months later, and for a while, life had been good. Then came the drunk driver on a Tuesday afternoon. Sarah had been coming home from grocery shopping. The impact killed her instantly. The police said she didn't suffer, as if that made it better. That was 2 years ago. Noah had been 4, now he was 6, asking questions about death that Ethan still didn't know how to answer. Ethan had rebuilt his life around being a dad. Miller's Auto Repair, predictable shifts, pickup at 3:15 every afternoon. He'd learned to cook basic meals, to read the same bedtime stories without losing his mind, to be both mother and father even though he felt like he was failing at both most days. He wrapped Lily's feet in the cleanest section of the blanket and pulled out his phone. No signal. The storm must have knocked out the cell tower. He kept talking to keep Lily conscious. "Tell me about your mommy." "She's pretty," Lily mumbled, her words coming slower now. "She works a lot, lots of meetings. But sometimes she reads to me. I like when she does the voices." "What kind of books?" "Princess books. And animals. I like the one about the elephant who can't sleep. Normal." She sounded so heartbreakingly normal. A 5-year-old who liked princess books and had a working mother. Nothing about her suggested the nightmare scenario building in Ethan's mind. "Where do you live, Lily?" "Seattle, in a tall building. You can see the water from my window." Seattle. That was 600 miles from where he'd found her. 600 miles of mountains and wilderness. How had a child ended up here, barefoot and bleeding, in the middle of a Montana blizzard? "Lily, do you remember how you got here? Where your mommy is?" Her face crumpled. Tears started slow at first, then faster, cutting warm tracks down her frozen cheeks. "Miss Rachel said we had to go. She said bad people were coming. We drove and drove, and then she told me to hide. She said don't come out. She said don't come out no matter what." Ethan's military training cycled through scenarios. Kidnapping, custody dispute, trafficking. Each possibility worse than the last, but one detail snagged in his mind like a fishhook. Rachel was crying. Rachel told Lily to hide. Rachel said don't come out no matter what. That wasn't the behavior of a kidnapper. That was someone trying to protect a child. "Who's Miss Rachel?" he asked carefully. "My nanny." The tears fell harder now, the kind of crying that shook her whole body. "I waited like she said. I waited so long, but she didn't come back, and I got cold, and I couldn't find the car anymore. And I just walked and walked." "You did the right thing," Ethan said, pulling her close. "You were so smart to keep moving. I'm going to take you somewhere safe now, and we're going to find your mommy. I promise." It was a promise he had no business making. But looking at this terrified little girl who'd been abandoned in a blizzard by someone who was supposed to protect her, Ethan couldn't help himself. He put the truck in gear and headed toward Pine Ridge. The drive took 40 minutes that felt like 4 hours. The storm didn't let up. If anything, it intensified, as if nature itself wanted to keep Lily's secrets buried under snow. Ethan kept talking to keep her conscious. The symptoms of hypothermia were advancing in ways that worried him. Her shivering had decreased, which was bad. A body that stopped shivering had stopped fighting. Her words came slower, slurred at the edges. "Tell me about Miss Rachel," he said. "She's nice. She makes me pancakes with faces on them. She's been with me since I was a baby. She knows all my favorite things." 4 years, Ethan calculated. This wasn't some temporary hire. This was someone who'd raised this child. And she woke you up in the middle of the night and said you had to leave? "She was crying," Lily repeated, her eyelids heavy. "I never saw Miss Rachel cry before." Pine Ridge appeared through the snow like a ghost town. Population 800, though half of those were seasonal workers at the ski resort. Main Street consisted of one stoplight, a general store, a bar, and the sheriff's office. Ethan pulled up in front of the sheriff's office, a small brick building with bars on the windows that had seen better decades. He grabbed Lily, blanket and all, and carried her through the storm to the door. Inside, blessed warmth hit them like a wave. Deputy Marcus Reed looked up from his computer, eyes widening at the sight of Ethan holding a half-frozen child. "Jesus Christ," Marcus breathed, already reaching for the phone. "Where'd you find her?" "Highway 87, about 40 miles out, standing in the middle of the road." Sheriff Cole emerged from his office. A thick-built man in his 50s who'd seen most everything Pine Ridge had to offer over 20 years of service. His expression shifted from irritation at being interrupted to sharp focus. "Get Dr. Brennan," Cole ordered Marcus. "Tell her it's urgent." Ethan laid Lily on the worn leather couch in the waiting area. She was barely conscious now, her skin still that horrible blue-white color that meant her body was losing the fight. "Her name's Lily," Ethan said. "She's 5, from Seattle. Her nanny brought her out here, told her to hide in the snow, and never came back. The kid's been walking for God knows how long." Cole's jaw tightened. He pulled out his radio. "Marcus, once you get Brennan, I need you to check for missing person reports out of Seattle. 5-year-old girl, blonde hair, brown eyes. First name Lily, last name unknown." Dr. Brennan arrived within 10 minutes, medical bag in hand. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, who'd served as Pine Ridge's only physician for 2 decades and had long ago stopped being surprised by anything. She took one look at Lily and immediately began treatment, her movements efficient and practiced. "Moderate hypothermia," she muttered, wrapping Lily in heated blankets she'd brought from her office. "Frostbite on the toes, not severe yet. Dehydration. Malnutrition. This child hasn't eaten properly in days. Will she be okay?" Ethan asked, and he was surprised by how much the answer mattered to him. Brennan looked up, her expression grave but not hopeless. "You found her when you did. Another hour, maybe 2, and we'd be having a very different conversation." The weight of that settled in Ethan's chest like a stone. Another hour. 2 at most. The margin between life and death had been that thin, and he'd almost driven right past her. Marcus returned from his computer, his face drained of color. "Sheriff, I found something." His voice was strange, tight. "Actually, I found a lot of somethings." "Spit it out." "There's no missing person report for any Lily from Seattle." He paused. "But there's something else." Marcus held up his tablet with hands that weren't quite steady. "Check the news." Cole took the tablet. Ethan watched the sheriff's face change as he read, watched the blood drain away until Cole looked almost as pale as the child on the couch. "What?" Ethan demanded. Cole looked at Lily, then at Ethan. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. She's not missing. Or rather, she wasn't supposed to be. Ethan stared at the photo, then at Lily, sleeping fitfully under Dr. Brennan's care. Then back at the article. Lily Cross, Marcus said quietly, daughter of Victoria Cross, founder and CEO of Cross Technologies. They make cloud security software, company's worth about $12 billion. He swallowed hard. Lily went missing from their Seattle penthouse 3 days ago, along with her nanny, Rachel Flynn. FBI's involved, Sheriff Cole added, scrolling through the article. They've been treating it as a kidnapping. He stopped scrolling, and when he looked up, his face had aged 10 years in 10 seconds. The nanny, Rachel Flynn, was found dead this morning in a ravine off Highway 2, about 100 miles north of here. Single gunshot wound to the head. The room went completely silent except for the hum of the heater and Lily's shallow breathing. So the nanny was killed, Ethan said slowly, each word deliberate. But Lily was never found, because Rachel hid her, told her to stay hidden no matter what. Rachel saved her life, Dr. Brennan said softly from beside the couch. Whatever was happening, whoever was after them, that woman made sure they wouldn't find this child. Cole reached for his phone. I need to call the FBI. They need to know she's safe. Wait, Ethan said. Why did the nanny run? If someone was trying to kidnap Lily, why didn't Rachel call the police? Why take her and flee 600 miles into the wilderness? Maybe she didn't have time. Or maybe Rachel didn't trust the police. Maybe whoever was after Lily had resources, money, connections, the kind of power that makes problems disappear. Cole's expression hardened. You suggesting we don't report this? I'm suggesting we think before we act. That nanny was murdered. Whoever killed her is still out there. And if they find out Lily survived, they'll come for her. Sheriff Cole stood silent for a long moment. Finally, he shook his head. I've got protocol. FBI has an active case. The mother is offering $5 million. We make the call. Ethan wanted to argue. Every combat instinct told him something was wrong. But Cole was right. Fine, Ethan said. But keep her here tonight. She needs rest, medical care, and she needs to feel safe. I'm staying too. Walker, go home to your boy. Noah's safe at Mrs. Henderson's. I'm not leaving Lily alone. Something in his voice ended the discussion. Lily woke around midnight. Ethan was dozing in the chair next to the couch when he heard her small gasp. He was on his feet instantly, combat reflexes sharp even after years. Her eyes were wide with panic, darting around the unfamiliar room. Hey, Ethan said softly, kneeling beside the couch. You're okay. Remember me? Ethan, I found you on the highway. Recognition slowly filtered into her expression. Then the question he'd been dreading. Where's Miss Rachel? The words drove a spike through his chest. How did you tell a 5-year-old that the woman who'd protected her, who made her pancakes with faces, was dead? Miss Rachel had to go away, he said carefully, hating every word. But she made sure you were safe first. She loved you very much. Tears spilled silently from those brown eyes. She didn't ask more. Maybe, on some level a child couldn't articulate, she already knew. Dr. Brennan appeared with warm broth. Lily sipped carefully, then eagerly as her body remembered hunger. Ethan called Mrs. Henderson. Noah was sound asleep. When he hung up, Lily was watching him. You have a little boy? Yeah. His name's Noah. He's 6. Does he go to school? 1st grade. He likes math but hates spelling. A small smile touched Lily's lips, the first one Ethan had seen, tentative as a bird landing on an outstretched hand. I like drawing. Miss Rachel says I'm good at it. She caught herself, the smile faltering. She said, Ethan's heart cracked along a fault line he didn't know existed. What do you like to draw? Animals. And castles. I drew a castle for my mommy's birthday. It had a princess tower and a moat and everything. Normal conversation about normal things, It helped push back the darkness of what had happened, created a small pocket of warmth in a night full of cold truths. They talked for a while longer, the kind of easy, wandering conversation you could only have with a child. Lily told him about her school, about the fish tank in the lobby of her building, about how her mommy worked a lot but sometimes came home early and they'd make cookies together. When the tiredness crept back into her eyes, Lily reached out and took Ethan's hand. Her fingers were tiny, barely wrapping around two of his. "Will you stay until my mommy comes? I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart." She smiled again, just barely, and closed her eyes. Within minutes, her breathing had deepened into sleep, her small hand still holding his. Ethan sat there in the dim sheriff's office, listening to the wind howl outside and the soft rhythm of a child's breathing, and waited for whatever came next. The helicopter arrived at 1:15 in the morning. Ethan heard it before he saw it, the distinctive thump of rotors through the thinning storm. Marcus went outside to guide it down. Lily stirred but didn't wake. Cole watched from the window. That's not FBI. That's private. The mother? Has to be. When you've got $12 billion, you don't wait for the government. The aircraft touched down, snow swirling in its downdraft like a second storm. The door opened and 3 people emerged into the cold. 2 men in dark suits, obviously security, moving with the controlled alertness of professionals, and between them, a woman. Victoria Cross looked nothing like her corporate photographs. The polished executive from the Forbes covers was gone. Her dark hair hung loose around her shoulders, uncombed. She wore jeans, snow boots, and a heavy coat thrown on in haste. No makeup, no armor of professionalism. But it was her face that stopped Ethan cold. She looked shattered. Eyes swollen red from days of crying, skin stretched tight over cheekbones, sharpened by exhaustion and fear. This wasn't a billionaire CEO stepping off a helicopter. This was a mother who had spent 3 days not knowing if her child was alive or dead. The door burst open, and Victoria rushed in, eyes sweeping the room with wild desperation. Then she saw Lily on the couch, small and pale under the blankets, teddy bear clutched in her sleeping arms. The sound that came from Victoria wasn't quite a scream and wasn't quite a sob. It was something deeper, more primal. Every fear and prayer and desperate hope of 72 hours releasing at once. She dropped to her knees, hands hovering over her daughter as if the child might vanish. "Lily," she whispered. "Oh God, Lily." The sedative kept Lily under, but her hand moved, fingers reaching blindly. Victoria caught it, pressed those tiny fingers to her lips, and broke. Ethan stepped back. So did everyone else. Marcus turned away. Even Cole found somewhere else to look. This moment was sacred. Something $12 billion couldn't buy. A mother finding her lost child. Lily woke just before 2 in the morning. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and confused, swimming up through layers of sedative and exhaustion. Then she saw her mother's face, and every muscle in her small body went slack with relief. "Mommy." The word was barely a breath, but it carried the weight of 3 days of terror. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here. Mommy's here." Lily reached up with both arms, and Victoria gathered her close, so carefully, mindful of the bandaged feet and the fragile body still warming back to life. They held each other and cried, mother and daughter reunited. And for a few minutes, the world outside, the storm, the murder, the unanswered questions, all of it ceased to exist. When the tears subsided, Dr. Brennan confirmed Lily would recover fully. Victoria's eyes found Ethan. She crossed to him and pulled him into a fierce embrace, trembling. "Thank you for bringing my baby back to me. I was just in the right place at the right time." "No. You chose to stop. Most people would have driven past. You gave me back everything that matters." Then the vulnerability retreated behind something harder. Brennan recommended a hospital. Victoria refused. "No hospitals. Home to Seattle. Private medical team." Not a discussion. Cole tried to ask questions. Victoria cut him off. The FBI is handling the investigation. Rachel Flynn, Ethan said. Victoria's jaw tightened. She's dead. Gunshot to the head. But before she died, she hid your daughter in a snowstorm and told her don't come out no matter what. That's not a kidnapper. That's someone willing to die to protect a child. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Rachel was troubled. Debts. Problems. The FBI is treating it as a kidnapping gone wrong. That's not what Lily said, Ethan replied. Lily said Rachel was crying. Said bad people were coming. That's someone running for their lives. Something flickered in Victoria's eyes, then vanished. Someone tried to take my daughter. Rachel was caught in the middle. That's all the truth you need. She gave Ethan her private number. If you ever need anything, call. Ethan took the card but shook his head. I don't need anything. I just want Lily safe. From the couch, Lily's small voice carried across the room. Mommy, is Ethan coming with us? Victoria's expression softened instantly, the hard edges melting away as she turned to her daughter. No, sweetheart. Ethan has to stay here with his little boy. Lily's face fell. Ethan crossed to the couch and knelt beside her. You don't need to thank me, Lily. I'm just happy you're safe. You're going home now. Back to your own room, your own toys. Everything's going to be okay. Will I see you again? He smiled, the kind of smile that was more hope than certainty. Maybe. The world's funny that way. People have a habit of running into each other when you least expect it. Lily reached out and hugged him, her small arms barely making it around his neck. Thank you for finding me. He hugged her back, gentle as holding glass. You take care of yourself, and take care of that bear too. He looks like he's been through a lot. Victoria lifted Lily from the couch, wrapping her in fresh blankets provided by one of the security men. She turned to Sheriff Cole. Thank you, Sheriff. For everything. Your discretion in this matter is appreciated. The unspoken message was clear. Don't talk to the press. Then she carried her daughter out into what was left of the storm. The helicopter engines were already spinning up, rotors beating the cold air. Ethan stood in the doorway and watched them go. Watched the helicopter lift off. Watched its lights rise into the dark sky. Watched until there was nothing left to see but falling snow. Well, Sheriff Cole said behind him, that's that. But it wasn't. Ethan could feel it in his bones, in the same place that had warned him about ambushes in the Afghan mountains. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. 3 days later, Ethan was under a Ford at Miller's Auto Repair when his phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Walker? FBI Special Agent Jennifer Martinez. I need to speak with you about Lily Cross. She needed to meet at the sheriff's office. 1 hour. Not over the phone. Ethan drove to Pine Ridge. Martinez was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with the kind of intense focus that came from years of hunting dangerous people. She asked Ethan to recount everything Lily had said. He told her all of it. When he finished, she sat back. What I'm about to tell you is part of an active federal investigation. It cannot leave this room. She paused. Rachel Flynn wasn't a kidnapper. She was a whistleblower. Martinez let the silence stretch for a moment before continuing. 4 months ago, Rachel contacted our office with information about Cross Technologies. She claimed the company was involved in illegal activities, specifically selling cybersecurity exploits to foreign governments. Backdoors built into their software that could compromise critical national infrastructure, power grids, water systems, military communications. Ethan's blood went cold. The implications spread outward like cracks in ice. And you verified this? We were in the process of verifying it. Rachel was gathering evidence from inside the household, documents, recordings, correspondence she'd overheard. She'd been with the family for 4 years. She had access to things most employees never would. But then, someone found out what she was doing. Martinez pulled up a file on her tablet. 3 days before Lily disappeared, Rachel called me in a panic. She said people were coming. Said she had to get Lily out immediately. I told her to bring the child to a safe house we'd arranged. She never made it. Why take Lily at all? Sheriff Cole asked. Because Rachel believed Lily was in danger, Martinez said. She was convinced that whoever discovered her whistleblowing would use the child as leverage against Victoria Cross. Or worse. Rachel wasn't kidnapping Lily. She was trying to save her. And Victoria? Ethan asked. Martinez chose her words carefully. Victoria built Cross Technologies from nothing. Brilliant, ruthless, but 3 years of impossible growth. Government contracts worldwide. Rachel claimed Victoria knew exactly what was being sold. She leaned forward. Rachel tried to do the right thing and ended up dead. And you, Mr. Walker, are a loose end. Martinez handed him her card. Direct line. Day or night. Anything unusual, call me. What about Lily? Her expression softened. That little girl is caught in something she can't understand. Her nanny died protecting her. Her mother is either a criminal or a victim. Until we have proof, Victoria Cross and her army of lawyers are untouchable. 2 weeks passed. Ethan tried to go back to normal life. Work, Noah, routine, oil changes and brake jobs, bedtime stories and packed lunches. But the normal world had developed a crack running through it, invisible to everyone but him. Every time he saw a news headline about Cross Technologies, his pulse quickened. Every time his phone rang from an unknown number, his hand moved toward Agent Martinez's card. Nothing happened. No arrests, no scandals, no dramatic revelations. Cross Technologies continued operating as if nothing was wrong. Victoria Cross appeared at tech conferences, gave polished interviews, smiled for cameras, and Lily vanished from public view entirely. No photos, no appearances, just silence. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, while Ethan was picking Noah up from school, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot and stopped beside his truck. The rear window rolled down, and Victoria Cross looked out at him. "Mr. Walker, can we talk?" Ethan's hand instinctively moved toward his pocket, where Martinez's card lived next to a photo of Noah and his wedding ring. But Noah was already running toward the truck, backpack bouncing. "Dad, guess what we did in science today?" Victoria smiled, and for a moment she looked like any other mother watching a child's excitement. "Hello, Noah. I'm Victoria. I'm a friend of your dad's." Noah, never shy, waved enthusiastically. "Hi, we made volcanoes with baking soda and vinegar. Mine was the biggest." Ethan put a protective hand on his son's shoulder. "Buddy, hop in the truck and wait for me. I'll be right there. Can I play on your phone?" "Sure." Noah climbed in, already absorbed in the screen. Ethan turned back to Victoria, keeping the truck in his peripheral vision. "How's Lily?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. For just a moment, the mask slipped. Physically, she's healing. The frostbite didn't leave permanent damage. Emotionally, she trailed off. She has nightmares. About the snow, about being alone. Her therapist says it'll take time. "I'm sorry." "She asks about you," Victoria said. "The man who found her." That hit harder than Ethan expected. He swallowed. "Tell her I'm fine. Tell her I think about her too." Victoria nodded. Then her expression shifted, the vulnerability retreating behind something harder and more practiced. "Mr. Walker, I know the FBI spoke with you. I know what they told you about Rachel, about my company." Ethan said nothing. Rachel was troubled. Victoria continued. "Paranoid. She convinced herself my company was doing something illegal when it wasn't. The FBI will realize that eventually and close their investigation." She reached into her purse and produced an envelope. She held it out to Ethan. "There's a check in here for $500,000. The number hung in the air between them. 500,000. More money than Ethan would make in a decade at the repair shop. Money that could change Noah's entire future. College. A better house. Security. Use it however you want, Victoria said. Your son's education, a new home, early retirement. You've earned it. And what do you want in return? Nothing. Just discretion. The FBI is investigating claims that have no basis in reality. When they close the case, I'd appreciate it if you didn't fan the flames. No reporters, no conspiracy theories. You're trying to buy my silence. I'm trying to protect my daughter from becoming a media spectacle. She's been through enough. She doesn't need her trauma turned into entertainment. It was a reasonable argument. Logical, measured. The kind of thing any mother would want. But Agent Martinez's words echoed in Ethan's mind. You're a loose end. I don't want your money, Victoria. Surprise flickered across her face, followed by something that might have been respect. Then what do you want? I want Lily to be safe. Really safe. Not just from whoever killed Rachel, but from anyone who would use her. That's what I want. He paused. Be the mother that Rachel Flynn thought Lily needed to be protected from. Prove her wrong. The words hung between them in the cold parking lot air. Victoria's jaw tightened. For a moment, Ethan thought she might lash out, might unleash the force that had built an empire. Instead, she tucked the envelope back into her purse. You're a rare man, Mr. Walker, principled. I hope that doesn't cost you. Is that a threat? It's a warning, from one parent to another. Her voice was quiet now, almost gentle. Sometimes protecting our children means making compromises we never thought we'd make. Hard choices that keep us up at night. Victoria's eyes held his, and in them Ethan saw something that looked almost like sorrow. I've made mine, Mr. Walker. I hope you never have to make yours. The window rolled up. The SUV pulled away, disappearing down the road in a whisper of expensive engineering. Ethan stood in the parking lot, watching it go, holding nothing but questions. Noah knocked on the truck window. Dad, can we get ice cream? 6 months later, spring came to Montana. The snow that had buried Highway 87 that terrible night melted away, revealing the scarred road beneath. Green shoots pushed through the thawed earth, the world transformed from white to living color. As it did every year, the eternal cycle of death and renewal that the mountains had witnessed for millennia. Ethan stood in his driveway, coffee in hand, watching Noah chase butterflies in the front yard. His son had grown over the winter, taller by an inch, lighter by another tooth, heavier by a year's worth of new words and new questions and new ways of seeing the world. Life had continued its steady march forward, indifferent to the secrets buried beneath the surface. The FBI investigation into cross technologies had quietly closed. Insufficient evidence. The official statement said Rachel Flynn's death was a tragic result of a kidnapping attempt gone wrong. The case went cold, filed away in some government archive where inconvenient truths went to gather dust. Victoria Cross appeared on the cover of Forbes, named one of the year's most influential technology leaders. In the interview, she spoke briefly about the terror of nearly losing her daughter, about the unnamed hero who found Lily in the snow. She didn't mention Ethan by name. He was grateful for that. But sometimes, late at night after Noah was asleep and the house was quiet, Ethan lay awake and wondered. He wondered if Rachel Flynn had been right about everything. If Victoria Cross was exactly what the nanny had feared, if Lily was truly safe or just living in a gilded cage, a pawn in a game played by people with more money than conscience. He kept Agent Martinez's card in his wallet, tucked between a photo of Noah and his wedding ring from Sarah. A reminder that the truth was still out there, even if no one was looking for it anymore. Noah asked about Lily sometimes. The girl Dad saved. Ethan kept it simple. She was okay. She went home. She was with her mom. Noah accepted this with the uncomplicated faith of a 6-year-old, the way children accept that rain comes from clouds and the sun goes to sleep at night. One evening, reading bedtime stories, Noah looked up from his pillow and asked a question that stopped Ethan cold. "Dad, do you ever get scared?" "Sure I do, buddy." "Scared of what?" Ethan considered this. There were so many answers: the war, the memories, the drunk driver that stole his wife, the little girl bleeding in the snow, the billionaire with secrets. "Scared of not being able to protect you," he said finally. Noah tilted his head, thinking with the grave seriousness only a 6-year-old could muster. "But you protected that girl, the one in the snow." "Yeah, I did. So you're good at it. Simple, direct, enough. A package with no return address." Inside, Ethan found a drawing done in crayon, the kind of glorious, imperfect art that only a child could create. A castle with a princess tower, lopsided and magnificent. 2 stick figures standing in front, one tall and one small. In the corner, written in careful, wobbly letters that must have taken enormous concentration for a child just learning to write, "Thank you for saving me. Love, Lily." Beneath the drawing was a photograph. Lily at a playground, laughing as she flew down a slide, her blonde hair streaming behind her, her face bright with the kind of pure, uncomplicated joy that existed only in childhood. On the back, in elegant handwriting that could only belong to Victoria Cross, 2 sentences. "She's healing. Because of you." Ethan pinned the drawing to Noah's bedroom wall, next to the school artwork and family photos. A reminder, a promise, a hope that somewhere out there, despite everything, despite the secrets and the lies and the dangerous game being played above her head, a little girl was okay. That she was laughing, that she was drawing castles. That afternoon, Noah came running from the yard, hands cupped together, eyes wide with discovery. "Dad! Dad! I caught a butterfly!" Ethan walked outside into the spring sunshine. The air smelled of new grass and thawed earth, the particular perfume of Montana in April. Noah held out his cupped hands, peering through the gap between his fingers at the prisoner inside. "Can I keep it?" Ethan knelt down beside his son. "Butterflies need to be free, buddy. If you keep it trapped in your hands, it'll die. But if you let it go, it might come back to visit." Noah considered this with the weight it deserved. Then, slowly, he opened his hands. The butterfly sat on his palm for a moment, wings trembling, adjusting to the sudden freedom. Then it took flight, spiraling upward into the vast blue Montana sky. "Will it really come back?" Noah asked, watching it disappear. Ethan put his arm around his son's shoulders. "Maybe, maybe not, but at least it's free to try." They stood together in the yard, father and son, as spring bloomed around them in every direction. The winter was over. The snow had melted, but Ethan knew that some things stayed frozen beneath the surface, waiting for their season. He thought of Lily in Seattle, living in her tall building with a view of the water. He thought of Rachel Flynn, who had given everything to protect a child who wasn't her own. He thought of Victoria Cross and the terrible weight of her secrets, and he thought about that night on Highway 87, when the snow fell so thick he almost didn't see a little girl standing in the middle of the road. Some moments change everything. Some choices define who we are. Ethan Walker had chosen to stop, to step into the storm, to carry a stranger's child to safety. He'd chosen to stay when leaving would have been easier, to refuse money when taking it would have been simpler, to hold on to his principles when the whole world seemed designed to make him let go. He didn't regret any of it, because somewhere a child was alive who might not have been. And sometimes that's all that matters. "Dad." Noah tugged his sleeve. "Can we make pancakes?" Ethan smiled and ruffled his son's hair. "Yeah, buddy. Pancakes sound perfect." They went inside together, leaving the spring morning behind. The butterfly continued its dance across the yard, free and fearless, and somewhere in Seattle, a little girl was drawing castles and dreaming of the man who found her in the storm.